Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're heading back to the Warring States period.
A fascinating time.
It really is.
Lots of upheaval.
Definitely tons of power struggles and alliances shifting all over the place.
Yeah, and we're focusing in
Exactly.
on the state of Yan.
Yan, yep.
Caught between a rock and a hard place, really.
Yeah.
With this rising superpower, the Qin.
The Qin, and you know what's even more interesting is that the crown prince of Yan, Prince Dan,
Yeah.
he isn't just worried about like the overall threat from the Qin.
Right.
This guy, he's got like a serious personal grudge against the Qin king, Ying Zheng.
It's almost like a personal vendetta.
I know, right?
Driving every...
It's like we're watching a Shakespearean drama, but it's like on this historical stage.
Yeah, and I think it gives us a really interesting look into how the aristocracy back then, how they thought.
Okay.
You know, like personal honor and revenge.
Yeah.
Sometimes those things were more important than what was best for the state.
For sure, for sure.
It's pretty wild.
So to really break this all down,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to turn to a couple of super famous historical texts on ancient China.
Of course.
The Zizi Tongjian
The ZZ Tongji.
and the Records of the Grand Historian.
Two classics.
I know, it's going to be good.
They're awesome, but you always have to remember, like,
What's that?
every single historical account, it's got its own perspective.
That's true.
You know, it's like we're looking at the same event, but through different colored glasses.
It's true. So, okay, back to Prince Dan.
Back to Prince Dan.
This guy wants revenge bad.
It does.
What's his plan? Like, how's he going to get it?
So his tutor, Zhu, he advises him to go with the old, reliable method.
Tried and true.
Tried and true, exactly.
Okay.
Build a gigantic alliance with all the other states that are also feeling the pressure from the Qin.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we're talking the three Jin states,
Right.
Qi, Chu, the whole gang.
The whole crew.
But here's where it gets interesting. Zhu even suggests, get this, making peace with the Xiongnu.
Wait, the Jiangnu, weren't they, like, considered outsiders by the Chinese states?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like barbarians almost?
Exactly.
So what's the deal with that?
Well, I think that little detail is super important.
Okay.
It really shows you how desperate things were getting.
Yeah.
The threat from the Qin was so huge
Huge.
that it basically forced everyone to completely rethink their traditional boundaries.
Right.
The very idea of the world, was expanding.
Wow. So even in this ancient power struggle,
Yeah,
we're seeing echoes of what happens in our world today.
definitely.
Like global challenges, they force us to reconsider who our allies are,
Yeah.
to look beyond borders.
I mean, it's a powerful reminder
It is.
that history isn't just about names and dates, It's about understanding how those forces shape human behavior
Yeah.
and how those forces keep, echoing throughout time.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it is.
So, okay, back to Prince Dan. Is he on board with this whole big alliance thing?
Not really. He's all about fast action, immediate revenge.
Ah, I see. So patience isn't exactly a virtue for this guy.
Nope.
He wants to hit back and hit back hard.
And to make matters worse, enter a total wild card.
Oh.
Fan Wuji, a Qin general he's fallen out of favor back in Qin.
Yikes.
He ends up fleeing to Yan,
Seeking refuge?
seeking refuge from his own people.
Wow, talk about bad timing.
It really is.
Now Prince Dan's got a Qin fugitive on his hands. Oh, man. Can't imagine that's going to go over well with the Qin king.
It's a huge dilemma for Prince Dan. On one hand, giving shelter to someone who's asking for help, that's honorable, right?
It is. It's the right thing to do.
But harboring a high-ranking Qin official,
That's practically a declaration of war.
pretty much.
So what does Ji Wu say about this? He always has good advice.
Oh, he does. Zhu, ever the pragmatist.
Yeah.
He suggests sending Fan Wuji to, you guessed it, the Xiongnu.
The Jiangnu again, huh? So, fleeing beyond the borders, that's becoming the go-to move.
It seems that way.
For anyone trying to get away from the Qin.
It really shows you how far Qin's influence had spread, how much fear they instilled in their rivals.
They were a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and it's interesting if you compare this to a story we talked about before, the story of Wei Qi,
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
another brilliant general who had to run from Qin.
I remember.
But back then, other states could still push back against Qin's demands.
Right.
Now, not so much. The balance of power had totally shifted.
And everyone was feeling it.
Everyone.
So Prince Dan, he's between a rock and a hard place.
Totally.
Protect Fan Wuji and risk facing the full wrath of Qin.
Yep.
Or betray a guy who asked for his help, violate his own sense of honor.
It's a classic clash, personal values versus the demands of the state.
Yeah, and whatever Prince Dan decides to do, it's going to have big consequences.
Huge consequences for the future of Yan.
I'm hooked. What does he do?
Well, before we get into that, let's dive a little deeper into this moral dilemma.
Okay, listeners, things are about to get philosophical. So we're back, and Prince Dan, he's wrestling with this impossible choice, right?
Yeah.
Honor versus protecting his state. So what happens?
In the end, he chooses honor.
He does.
Yeah, he decides to protect Fanwuji.
Even though that puts Yan in a really, really dangerous spot.
Yeah, it really shows you how deeply ingrained that aristocratic code of honor was.
So he's sticking to the old ways,
He is.
even though everything around him is changing.
Yeah, it's like he can't see the forest for the trees, you know?
Yeah, and I bet Juwu sees what's coming.
Oh, he does.
So what does he do?
He tries to steer Prince Dan toward a more practical approach.
Okay.
He uses these, like, wise sayings, almost like proverbs,
Okay.
to argue that sometimes the needs of the state,
Right.
they have to come before personal obligations.
I mean, he's got a point.
He does. Like, for example,
Yeah, what does he say?
he says, to form an alliance with one person and disregard the great harm to the country, this is what is called fueling grudges and inviting disasters.
Wow. Those are some wise words.
Right. And they still resonate today.
They do.
It's about finding that balance, personal loyalty,
Right.
and the greater good.
Yeah, it sounds like Juwu is basically saying, look, the world is changing,
It is.
and Yan has to change with it,
Adapt or die.
or get swallowed whole.
Exactly.
So he's advocating for a totally new way of thinking.
He is.
This is huge.
It really is what he's expressing. It's like this revolutionary idea for the time.
Okay, almost.
It's the idea of the state as its own entity, you know, with its own interests.
Right.
Separate from whoever's in charge.
That's big.
It's a massive shift in how people thought about politics.
So it's not just about Prince Dan
No.
and his revenge.
It's bigger than that.
It's not even just about Yan.
It's about this whole new way of thinking about power and government.
Wow. And this concept is going to keep getting more important
Oh, yeah.
as the warring states period comes to an end.
And China moves toward unification under the Qin.
Okay, so we've got Prince Dan. He's holding on to the old ways.
Yeah.
We've got Juwu. He's pushing for a new way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And the Qin, they're just looming over everything.
Like a shadow.
What happens next?
Well, remember Prince Dan's original goal?
Revenge, right. Against the King of Qin.
He hasn't forgotten.
So what does he do?
He comes up with this plan so audacious, so crazy,
Oh,
it's almost hard to believe it really happened.
okay. You've got to tell me.
He's going to send an assassin to kill the King of Qin.
Whoa, hold on. Are you serious?
I am. That's how far he's willing to go.
Talk about a high-stakes gamble.
That's an understatement.
So who is this assassin? Who in their right mind would take on a job like that?
That's where Qin Shi comes in.
Qin Shi, okay.
He's about to become Prince Dan's instrument of revenge.
So who was this guy?
Qin Shi, he was this wandering swordsman,
Okay.
known for his skill with a blade
Right.
and his, like, bravery, no fear.
So basically, Prince Dan is looking for a hero.
Pretty much someone to carry out his plan.
So they're going for it.
All or nothing.
No more subtle diplomacy.
Nope. This is about to get messy.
This assassination plot, I'm guessing it's going to be pretty dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but hold on. Before we get into all that,
Sure.
we've got to remember how desperate things were in Yan.
Yeah,
I mean, they're facing the most powerful army in China.
right.
Their prince is obsessed with revenge.
Yep.
And their wisest advisor, he's basically begging for them to be more strategic.
And yet, here they are.
It's like a historical thriller unfolding.
It really is. You can practically feel the tension building.
So what happens next?
Well, that's where we'll pick up next time.
All right, listeners, we're about to dive into this assassination attempt, how they planned it, who was involved, and what it meant for the state of Yan. All right, so Qin Shi, this wandering swordsman, he's going to risk it all for Prince Dan, for the state of Yan.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing
But how are they going to get him close enough to the King of Qin to actually,
to pull it off.
to make this happen?
Well, it all comes down to deception,
No.
desperation.
Lots of that going around.
There's got to give the King of Qin an offer he can't refuse.
Right, something to lower his guard.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me, what's the bait?
So they decide on two things.
Two things. Okay.
First, a map of a really valuable territory
Oh, wow.
that Yan is supposedly willing to give to Qin.
Okay, that's a good one.
And second, something a lot more, well, gruesome.
Gruesome. Okay, what could it be?
Something that shows just how far Prince Dan is willing to go.
Okay, what is it?
Ahead of Fan Wuji.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
They're going to use Fan Wuji's head as like a bargaining chip.
It's brutal.
That's cold-blooded.
But it shows you the reality of power back then, you know?
Yeah.
Survival often meant doing some pretty terrible things.
For sure. So, okay, they've got their gruesome gifts.
Right.
But how does Qin Shi actually get into the Qin Palace?
So that's where the map comes in.
Ah, okay.
The dagger.
The murder weapon.
Yeah, it's covered in a deadly poison.
Of course.
And it's hidden.
Hidden.
Yeah, inside the map's scroll.
Wow, clever.
Qin Shi, he pretends to be an envoy from Yan,
Okay.
and he gets an audience with the king.
To deliver these gifts?
Exactly.
This guy, he's walking into the lion's den, talk about pressure.
Yeah, can you imagine?
I mean, this is a moment
It really is.
that could have changed everything, like the course of history.
Totally.
Qin Shi standing there before the King of Qin.
Unfurling the map.
Every second ticking by.
Yeah, it's a nail biter.
It is. So does he pull it off?
As he unrolls the map,
Yeah.
the dagger's revealed. He lunges at the king.
Oh my.
Chaos erupts.
I bet.
Guards everywhere, scrambling, trying to react,
Yeah.
but they're totally caught off guard.
I mean, who would expect that?
Right. And for a minute,
Yeah.
it seems like Jin Kai might actually succeed.
Oh wow, so close.
So close.
Did he hit the king?
He came incredibly close.
Oh man.
But no, the king, he manages to dodge the blow, scramble away, just enough time for his guards to get to Jin Kai.
Oh man, what a near miss.
So the assassination attempt, it fails.
But even though he failed,
Yeah.
did it have any impact?
Oh, absolutely. This event, it sent shockwaves.
Throughout China.
It showed everyone, even the king of Qin,
Yeah.
he could be vulnerable.
So Jin Kai, I mean, he became a legend.
He did, the man who almost changed history.
So in a way, even though he failed, he still, achieved a kind of immortality
Like it's safe.
through this daring act.
But for Yan,
Yeah.
it was devastating.
Yes.
Qin used the assassination attempt
As an excuse.
as justification for a full-scale invasion.
They were just waiting for a reason.
And in the end,
Yeah.
they conquered Yan.
Wow, so a tragic end for Yang.
It is.
But what a story.
Really captures the drama of this whole period.
It does. The high stakes, the everything.
It reminds us that history isn't just about big forces, it's about individual choices.
Yeah.
Acts of courage, moments of,
Triumph.
triumph and failure.
Well, listeners, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Warring States period. We've seen political intrigue, moral dilemmas, and an assassination attempt that almost changed everything.
And that's just scratching the surface.
Exactly. There's so much more to discover.
We always encourage you to keep exploring, dig deeper, draw your own conclusions.
History is full of surprises,
It really is.
and there's always something new to learn.
Always.
So thanks for coming with us on this journey back in time.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new topic.
We'll see you then.
Until then, keep those brains buzzing.